This lesson is about knowing that nothing happens at random, that everything in your life has purpose. And even though the meaning within your life that something has is the meaning that you've given it, there's still a bigger meaning. And the bigger meaning is it's everything's for your good. It's all has purpose for your life and for your growth. And so that it seems like we're saying, okay, that everything's neutral, the meaning everything has is the meaning we give it, which is true. And that's based on perception. But then there's a bigger meaning, and a meaning that we can trust in, that there's purpose and meaning to your life and suffering. And the purpose of it, of both your life and your suffering, is to evolve you, and to evolve you to a higher state of consciousness. So, some of the key points of this lesson, that nothing happens at random, is we heal when we are ready, never before. So if you're on this path and you're like, I want to have a healed mind, I want to have perfect peace, I want to be invulnerable in the world, it will happen when it's ready, when you're ready, when you have had all the catalysts you need to create all the change you need to have in order to choose differently. So we can use consciousness. So this would be purification through water. That would be the symbolism. So we can use consciousness in order to change our mind about what we want to experience and how we want to perceive. Okay. The other way that we change is through fire. So fire would be represented. It's the symbolism for the suffering that we have, for the pain and the turmoil we have. That's another way that we can purify ourselves or to change the way we think. And often we will need the catalyst of suffering in order to be ready to consciously choose, to change our perception. So often fire comes before the water, and learning how to eventually get to a place where we're consciously choosing to be purified by water instead of fire. So again, those are just symbolic terms. But when we understand that, like sacred texts and religious texts, if you can see them more symbolically, this they make a lot more sense, on a bigger scale and a bigger level, a higher level of understanding, that there's purpose, that there's purpose, and all things that are happening in your life have purpose for your growth. So you heal when you're ready. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize here is that if you're not in a place where you want to be in this path, or you're getting triggered every day and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're still feeling anxious, and you've been doing this course and you're learning all these concepts that make sense to you, and you've had glimpses of how you can be, tapped into your healed mind and experience your healed mind, and you're like, well, but why can't I get it? Why can't I just stop being triggered? Why can't I stop suffering? It's because you're not ready. And you can't make yourself ready. You'll be ready when you're ready. Part of it is following the pulls that you have. Even if you're pulled to stop doing this kind of work, there's purpose in that. Even if you're pulled into a toxic relationship, or you're pulled into, having a lash out or behavior that's less than loving or self harming, there's going to be purpose in that. It's through those choices to do things that are less than loving that we suffer. And then that is the catalyst for us to be changing. And that's what actually makes us ready. But we need the contrast in order to consciously choose to change our mind, because otherwise the motivation is just not there. So trusting that you will change as you're ready. Just keep bringing awareness to how things are affecting you. So when I choose these thoughts, how does it affect me? When I choose thoughts in alignment with love, how does that affect me? When I choose attack, how does that affect me? When I choose fear, how does that affect me? And bringing awareness to that, that's what's going to allow you to progress quicker. And also compassion. So knowing that you're not to blame, you're not to fault, being gentle with yourself, and you knowing that you will heal when you're ready. Another point, that is nothing happens at random, is that we leave the body when we are meant to. So whether it's your loved one, or even yourself, you will not die unless you're supposed to. And on a certain level, your consciousness will have consented to that as well. So you might not be aware of that, but that doesn't happen at random either. So anyone that's leaving their body, that's happening because it's their time. So this is why we don't need to fear. Now we're going to do things that are loving towards ourselves and others, to the best of our ability. We're not going to try to create a situation where we're going to leave our body, but being in flow, doing our best, and then letting go of anxiety and trusting, that there's purpose and meaning, to why we're here, and we will not leave the body unless we're supposed to. And same thing with other people too, including children. Sometimes children pass away. There's meaning and purpose to that life, regardless of how short or long it is. Now, the other aspect of healed mind therapy that we allude to, but is not necessary for you to believe in order to have a healed mind, is this idea that you have many incarnations to evolve consciousness. So that's just because a child, dies at a young age, that doesn't mean that your life has no meaning, because their life couldn't have had meaning if they only had, 2 days of life. Their life absolutely had meaning, and it was probably a catalyst for those people around them to change them, their soul contracts, or to push other people to grow. Now, if you don't resonate with the idea that you have more than one opportunity to evolve this consciousness, so you have one life and many opportunities to evolve in order to reach that highest state of consciousness, which would be represented in the highest spiritual teachers in all the religions. If you don't believe in that does not stop you from having the healed mind. You'd want to lean in instead to trusting that there's purpose and meaning to your life and suffering. But this idea that death is an illusion, that you will not die before you're meant to, and that other people will not die before they're meant to, allows you to still put your seatbelt on, does not drive recklessly, but it allows you to not fear things happening that aren't supposed to be happening. So you can fall into that trust that this is not random, whether or not people live or die. Okay. Everyone in our life has purpose for our path. Everyone's a blessing. Everyone's a blessing and a teacher. You only are sent angels. And we have soul contracts, or we have contracts with people that are going to help us to evolve. So whether that person has disabilities, whether that's a small child that passes at a young age, whether it's a parent that was abusive because they were hurting, all of those things have purpose. Maybe it's a parent that's really protective or very loving. Protective, when I say protective, I mean like protective factor in the sense of the whole world feels against you, but you have this one person in your life that reminds you of the truth that you're lovable. But everyone has purpose in our life. So whoever's come into your life, trusting it. When you meet a stranger on the street, when you see a homeless person, you're seeing that person because there's a lesson for you in that moment. And then following your pulse to engage in those situations, or following the pulse to have boundaries in those situations. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to allow people to, doesn't mean that we allow people, let me correct myself there. It doesn't mean we allow people to abuse us or hurt us. We give boundaries as an act of love, but trusting that everyone in your life has purpose and meaning. And if you're holding any grievances towards anyone, it will prevent you from fully doing your healing and developing the self-love needed to have access to healed mind. And then the final piece that's not random is every event that affects us, whether it's positive or negative, has purpose. So it's not just people, but it's also events. So if your house blows down or gets caught on fire, or you lose all your possessions, or somebody steals it out of your car, all of those things have purpose. So you want to lean into them. Okay, why is this happening? Where is there chaos in my life that caused this tornado to rip through my house? Did I take something that was not mine? And then the consequences, I'm suffering because someone else took something of mine. Now, sometimes things will happen in your life and other people would say, oh, that would really upset me or trigger me, but it doesn't affect you emotionally. That means it's not your lesson. So same thing with other people. There'll be people that won't have memories of things that they've done to you because it was your lesson. Or you might not have a memory of something that you've done to them that impacted them. It's because it was their lesson. So being able to just trust that if something's affecting you, it is for you to look at. If you're feeling, anything, it's to remind you of your blessings, that you are enough, that you are lovable, you're worthy. And then anything that's negative is the contrast, and that's based on your perception. So all suffering is based on our perception. So being able to trust that this is not random. All these things that have happened in your life have had the purpose to bring you to this point of saying to yourself, there's got to be another way. I want to choose differently. I want to see differently. And that's a wonderful mantra to use throughout your day. I want to see differently, and repeat yourself, I want to see differently. I want to see differently. And when we do these repetitions throughout the day, especially if you're finding you're falling back into the old patterns or the old mind that has attack thoughts or judgment, Doing it repetitively, even if every 15 minutes, can be incredibly helpful to remind you of the truth, to keep you centered on the healed mind, and keep you invulnerable in the world so that you can have perfect peace in every moment. So we're going to release judgment and we're going to trust that there's a plan and there's purpose to your life and suffering, and that really is all good and all things are blessings.